not blow the rain in just yet. Okay, I think we can sneak in our program before that happens. So I'm Pam Stranahan. I think I know almost everybody by name, but I'm really glad to see you here today. I recognize in the audience some people that we want to give credits to. That's Commissioner Pat Russo, okay, and Judge Bianchi. We have other folks behind us on this stage here, and so you'll hear from them in just a minute. Today we're opening the exhibit and called Voices from the Past, the Making of Aransas County. It's a really broad picture that tells you all about Aransas County. The details we'll pick up in other exhibits, as you see in 2 rooms in the main gallery. We'll continue to change that main gallery every 3 or 4 months like we usually do. But the exhibit Voices of the Past will stay up for a while. We may change artifacts out, but the basic picture is there, the story. So whenever you have friends, relatives who come to town, this is the place to bring them, to let them know all about Aransas County. We're really happy to have the posters and artifacts on the wall, so glad to have you here today to celebrate with us. So it's really all about Aransas County. So our first story this morning is going to be by Phil Alvin, and he's the former president of the Aransas County Historical Society. And he's going to tell us about the founding of Aransas County in 1871. Please welcome Phil.
Are we tuned in?
Yeah.
Oh, right. What a great day. No rain.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pam. And a big thank you to all the volunteers of the History Center for keeping the story of Aransas County alive. Dr. David Mura, longtime Aransas County Historical Society trustee and newsletter editor, has just completed a history of Aransas County. David is an accomplished author with more than 50 major publications, mostly dealing with West Texas and its storied ranches. His work also includes the history of Cochran County and the city of Lubbock, Texas. My talk today is taken from his soon-to-be published History of the Aransas County. Keep the wind blowing here. I'm sure that all of us count it a blessing to live here in Aransas County, surrounded by all this water. And you may have, like me during Hurricane Harvey, asked, why the hell am I living here on the coast surrounded by all this water? Well, it was this water that led to the founding of Aransas County and put Rockport, Fulton, and Lamar on the map. Today we are celebrating the 150th anniversary of the founding of Aransas County in 1871. But let's start the story of Aransas County 300 years ago, to about 1721, and take a look at Spanish Texas and what was going on in this area, in this part of the world. The Spanish began the colonization of what was to become Texas by establishing San Antonio in 1718. 4 years later, they came to our area, Coconut Bay, and built a seaport called El Cocono. El Copano served to supply San Antonio and the Spanish missions along the rivers leading up to San Antonio. So we can see that our area, Copano Bay, Aransas Bay, and the Gulf of Mexico, and long before the first Anglo settlements came to Texas, 1720s. All of this region at that time was occupied by Native Americans, primarily Aransas, who enjoyed fishing and gathering oysters. In 1821, nearly 100 years after the Spanish established the seaport of El Copano, Anglo colonization of Texas began. Mexico had gained its independence from Spain and reluctantly began to allow more settlers from the United States to enter Texas. Stephen F. Austin and later others led the way with settlement contracts with the New Mexican government. But Mexico would not allow Americans to establish settlements on the coast. So Austin's colony was located inland, and because of this, little development occurred on our Texas coastal shores. In 1828, two Irishmen, James Power and James Hewitson, obtained impresario contracts to settle 200 Catholic families, half Irish and half Mexican. The location would be in and around the town of present-day Refugio. This grant was significant on 2 points. First, Mexico set aside its restriction regarding settlement along the coast. And second, it would not permit settlers from the United States. Power and Hewitt's colonization efforts proved extremely difficult. Power recruited 350 immigrants from Ireland. They sailed for Texas in early 1834. The voyage struck tragedy early on, an outbreak of cholera in New Orleans, which took the lives of almost half of the immigrants. Then Power's 2 ships, on the way from New Orleans to El Copano, ran aground and wrecked on St. Joseph Island while trying to navigate the Aransas Bay. To get the settlers to the destination, Power hired a schooner to haul the families to El Copano, and from there they made their way to the remains of an old Spanish mission in Refugio. After the Battle of San Jacinto in 1836, which concluded the Texas Revolution with Mexico, the Republic of Texas town of Refugio became the county seat of Refugio County, which included present-day Aransas County. About this time, James Power decided to make his home on the tip of Live Oak Peninsula. He formed a partnership with former Texas Governor Henry Smith and George W. Fulton. The partnership laid out the first town on the north end of Live Oak Peninsula, which they christened Aransas City. The town initially prospered with a customs house and new inhabitants, one of which was Henry L. Kinney, who later founded Corpus Christi. The Republic of Texas endured almost 10 years and then joined the United States as the 28th state of the Union. Following the 1845 war between the United States and Mexico, the town of Aransas City had fallen on hard times and lay virtually abandoned. Other towns in the area, such as Lamar, St. Mary's, and Aransas, located on the southern end of St. Joseph Island, fared no better. In the year 1861, ushered in the American Civil War, which ravished the nation until 1865. During this time, Union troops shelled the village of Lamar, burned warehouses and piers at St. Mary's, and completely destroyed the town of Aransas. At the close of the Civil War, our coastal communities had little assets except for vast numbers of beef cattle. The market for fresh beef was hundreds of miles away in St. Louis, Kansas City, and Chicago. There had been some effort to drive beef cattle to market before the Civil War. Thomas Coleman made 3 trail drives from San Patricio County to Chicago from 1857 to 1859, but the route was extremely long and hazardous. Some South Texas cattlemen began routing cattle up the new, shorter Chisholm Trail to railheads in Kansas, while others envisioned that they could slaughter cattle locally and ship beef dead or alive by steamship. What these visionaries needed was a deep water port from which to ship cattle and their byproducts. At the time, St. Mary's was the largest community in the area, home to prominent rancher John Wood. It had also been named the new county seat of Refugio County. Hidden oyster reefs in Copano Bay proved to be a formidable barrier for deep draft ships. So St. Mary's deep water port idea went nowhere. Live Oak Peninsula, on the other hand, offered the possibility of a deep water harbor at a prominent rocky point that jutted out into Aransas Bay. In 1866, rancher John Wood's son, Richard, and James Doherty constructed pens, a warehouse, and a wharf near the rocky point. Shortly thereafter, rancher John Wood bought the entirety of St. Joseph Island to expand his cattle holdings. The next year, in 1867, William Hall established a slaughterhouse near the rocky point to render hides and tallow. Suddenly, the packing and shipping prospects at the rocky point, soon to be called Rockport, caught the eye of other investors with large land holdings in the area. Cousins J.M. Mathis and T.H. Mathis engaged steamship lines to make regular stops at Rockport. In 1868, 2 different partnerships had surveyed streets and lots for the new town of Rockport and had constructed a large shipping wharf to Aransas Bay at Rocky Point. The new community attracted a number of investors and appeared to be on its way to becoming an important beef cattle shipping point. Meanwhile, just north of Rockport, George Fulton laid out his own town and entered into a partnership with other ranchers to form the Coleman, Fulton, Mathis Pasture Company, a vast operation created one of the largest fenced ranches in the state. It covered more than 200,000 acres and extended 40 miles west of Rockport. With such a concentration of cattle wealth, influence, it is no wonder that Rockport mustered the political clout to steal the county seat away from the towns of St. Mary's and Refugio. Even though St. Mary's had been designated the county seat in 1869, the records were never moved from Refugio. Thus, the Texas legislature prepared to meet in the spring of 1871. Residents of St. Mary's petitioned the government to ratify St. Mary's as the legitimate county seat. Promoters in Rockport, as well as residents of El Copano, also petitioned the legislature to have their towns named the county seat. The town of Rockport rightly argued that it had more than half the population of the county, and that it had become the area's business center with its numerous beef factories and steamship service from New Orleans. Along with the neighboring town of Fulton, the area had become the mart and market of large herds of beef cattle. Meanwhile, the old Irish settlers of Refugio hadn't taken the county seat ruckus seriously and failed to oppose the move. As a result, on March the 15th, 1871, the legislature designated Rockport as the county seat of Refugio County. Once the county records were moved from Refugio to Rockport, the old Irishmen of Refugio finally woke up and commenced battles to get the county seat back. Refugio County at the time covered a vast area, and the Irishmen summarized that the leaders of Rockport were not interested in the inland backcountry. Thus, they initiated a series of meetings which led to what one observer called an Amsco Agreement to divide the county into coastal and backcountry areas, with the coastal part being named Aransas County. In September 1871, the Texas legislature approved the division, designating the town of Refugio as the county seat of the inland backcountry and Rockport the county seat of the coastal area. The new Aransas County was a unique county, land surrounded by water on nearly all sides. In fact, there is no place in today's Aransas County that is further from 8 miles from saltwater. When the town residents of Refugio learned that the Texas legislature had approved the division, one of the old Irish settlers reportedly said, "Damn Yankees got all the water, and I hope they drown us." The new Aransas County got off to a good start, enjoying a boom in the beef cattle business. By the mid-1870s, a dozen or more factories had appeared on Live Oak Peninsula and on the shores of Copano Bay. The first of the plants salted and pickled meat, packed it in barrels, and then rendered the fatty meat for tallow. They shipped the packed meat, tallow, hides, bones, and horns to markets up the Gulf Coast. The remainder of the carcasses were fed to hogs or dumped into the bay. As a result, a horrific stench which engulfed the communities of Rockport and Fulton. The populace suffered greatly, especially in the hot summer months. Later, the stench was abated somewhat as some of the factories utilizing George Fulton's invention developed a process for curing and storing meat under refrigeration. It was a bustling place. The factories provided ample employment for skinners, butchers, and barrel packers. Many worked in cowboying, construction, salt manufacture, road building, and on the docks as stevedores. As characteristic of many boom towns, there were innkeepers, saloon keepers, gamblers, and ladies of the night. Dozens of workers, many of Mexican heritage, probably camped along the live oak trees, obtaining much of their food from the discarded beef products. One early arrival offered a poignant description of the population. In the Rockport area, there are waterfront characters, frontier merchants, booted and spurred pistoleros, cattle barons, working cowboys, and uprooted farmers and tradesmen from the southern states. For about 20 years, Aransas County led the state in beef packing. Then in 1886, a hurricane destroyed much of the waterfront packing operations. And in 1888, 2 years later, the railroad came to town, enabling the shipment of live beef to giant packing plants in Kansas City, St. Louis, and Chicago. The railroad also ushered in a new era of water-influenced industry. Tourists by the thousands arrived to enjoy Rockport's cooler summer breezes, the beaches, the bays, and to stay in its grand hotels. This turn-of-the-century area, like the previous meat-packing area, lasted about 20 years. The great hurricanes of 1916 and 1919 destroyed the grand hotels, along with much of Rockport and Fulton. About the time when it seemed that Aransas County was going to revert to being the home of an isolated fishing village, its leaders launched a campaign to bring a highway to the county that would link Rockport and Fulton northeasterly to the city of Houston. In essence, just as the railroad's arrival in 1888 had saved the day, so did the new 1931 Coconut Bay Causeway, aptly named the Hug of the Coast Highway. Tourist courts and motels appeared throughout the county, some of which are still standing today. Later, RV parks attracted even more visitors. Tourists became the county's #1 industry. In the early 1960s, Aransas County felt a growing demand for vacation and retirement homes. To meet the need, several enterprising developers created canal communities with homes to satisfy the needs of modest to expensive taste. These canal communities were greatly influenced by the construction of the Intercoastal Canal, along with the cutoff channel that ran from Rockport through Aransas Pass. The most ambitious and far-reaching of the canal projects was Key Allegro Island Estates, which broke ground in 1961. Although it took more than 30 years to reach full completion, Key Allegro became the most significant development in the history of Aransas County. During its construction, the county's population more than tripled from 7,000 in 1960 to 25,000 in 2015. During the same time, the county's taxable property values increased almost 300-fold, from less than $30 million to more than $3 billion. As a result, Aransas County went from being one of the poorest counties in the state to one of the richest. The exhibit you're about to view today, you will see photos, documents, and artifacts of those who helped make Aransas County what it is today. We owe a large debt of gratitude to them, but also to the old Irishman or Curio, which in 1871 declared, "The damn Yankees got all the water and I hope they drowned in it." You might want to join me in saying to him, memories. We love the water.
Thank you very much, Phil. I think you really did a summary of what's in the exhibit in there. And I think you'll see more when you get inside and see all of the photographs and artifacts that go along with this story. So at this time, I'd like to call Phil's.
Thank you, Pam. Good morning. We know that Aransas County has a remarkable history. The last few years, we've seen both of them. The last 4 years, the historic legacy that we have here is the waterfront that we all enjoy, and brought the early settlers and businessmen to this area for safe harbor. The sawgrass brought the ranchers for ranching, and the rich soil brought farmers for farming. And this was in the late 1860s or 1800s and early 1900s. And the businessman promoted the railroad, the Intercoastal Canal, and Hudson Coast Highway. These people brought to the county a lot of work, and often came back as tourists, and some settled and bought houses and remained. We still have many remarkable buildings that show our history and show the resilience of our people in Aransas County. We have a strong history to build on, and we encourage everyone to keep these legacies going for future generations. Please join us in our activities in the future, next month in particular, in celebrating the sesquicentennial, celebration from June 12th to June 20th. It's going to be a great time, and we're going to have a wonderful summer, I hope.
Next, I ask Mayor Rios to say a few words about the development of Rockport itself.
Thank you, Pam. Phil, thank you so much for that great explanation of how we are where we are. A little bit about Rockport and Aransas County. I've been fortunate to travel all over the state. And a couple of years ago, my wife and I were in Holoduro Canyon, just visiting Walking Park. We went into the visitor center and was talking to the docent. She said, "So where are you from?" I said, "We're from Rockport." And what did she say? "Do you know Dave and Ann Murray?" I said, "Well, yes, we do. Good friends of ours." And then got to talking. As we travel throughout the state, it seems like there's not one person I've ever run into that's not familiar with the great state of Texas, with Aransas County and Rockport. We're known everywhere. We're known for our pristine water, our great tourist sites, our venues, and our history, too. That's a big part of who we are. And going back to, again, traveling through the state, my youngest daughter, a couple of years ago, introduced me to her future in-laws. They live in Amber. They said, "Well, you live in Rockport. You've been there a couple of times. Do you know David and Ann Murray?" So it seems like, Phil, your friends are just everywhere. And every time I see Dave and Ann, I say, I don't know what you're doing, but everyone around knows that you're here at Rockport. So if you're part of the Witness Protection Program, you need to find something else. But the history of Rockport is very colorful. It's something that I think we should all be proud of. When we were moving the History Center, the Kleins building, they actually dug up some of the old Rocky Point there underneath there. Part of it's here on the grounds. It's a real pleasure to be able to work here and serve in Rockport and work so closely with Judge Mills, his group, with Pam and her group. And I've got a lot of fondness for this tradition, for the history major instead of what I turned out to be. We're always inspired by seeing what's going on here. We love the change in the exhibits. We look forward to this one and the ones to come. No, no. Okay. Judge, you want to go ahead and judge? A little interruption here.
Just for a second. On behalf of the board, we would like to make a special presentation this morning. All the work and dedication over the years, and especially this exhibit, we would like to honor Ann Stranahan. Please stand up. Ann has eyed this for a long time. This is a painting by our resident artist, Ray Masley. This is the History Center. His favorite painting, and we appreciate all that you have done. Again, thank you for all members of the History Center, our board, our dignitaries, Pat, Dick, for helping us out so much as a docent. We all appreciate everything you're doing. Again, now back to the record program.
All signed. Oh, thank you guys. I couldn't be up here without all of the people that serve on the board and as docents. We really appreciate that. There's no way that I'm just the representative for the board, and I appreciate this very much. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have refreshments inside, and we fought the mosquitoes and the weather the other day, so we decided we would put the refreshments on the front porch so you can enjoy them there and inside. But please join us and visit and enjoy the exhibit just a little bit more this morning. Thank you for being here.